Hey everyone, me Kevin here. Many of you know that I'm a big time investor in electric vehicles. That's because we know that electric vehicles are going to be the future of our society, but they're not tomorrow's future. They're like the 2020 to 2050 and 60 future. That means we're just at the beginning of this transition to EVs. Now, we know that states like California want to ban the sale of ICE vehicles by 2035, but A, that's ambitious, and B, that doesn't mean we still won't have gassed used cars on the roads. And quite frankly, with an ambitious target, that might get pushed back. And the biggest roadblock for electric vehicles, which is changing my investment strategy, which we're going to be talking about in this video, has to do with batteries. Now, before we get into the details and the research that I've done regarding batteries, I want to give a huge shout out to all of those of you in the Stocks and Psychology of Money course who joined me in a voice chat this morning where we brainstormed some of the ideas for this video. I sent out an alert and a huge thank you to the about 100 of you who instantly showed up to start talking about batteries. It was fun. Look forward to doing that again in the future. Check out those courses, link down below in that course coupon code as well. All right, so let's talk about this. We know, and then this is where I think it's worth drawing the problem here. So let's just draw the problem really quick. You gotta love bringing the iPad out with a pencil, okay? Here's the thing. Electric vehicle growth right now is expected to be an exponential growth curve. If we take the average annual compounded rate of growth between 2020 and 2025, we get about an estimate of a 36% year over year growth for electric vehicles. And we expect this growth rate to increase as we go along the exponential curve here. So it's really, if I just take this slice here, we get about a 36% estimate for electric vehicle growth, sales growth. And this is per Bloomberg. The problem with this is we have big issues when it comes to batteries. You would think that, hey, if we're going to grow electric vehicle demand and sales at 36%, that we'd be able to grow battery or battery manufacturing capacities at about that percentage, right? Well, unfortunately, the answer to that is no. Take a look at this. Oops, that's Webull. Which, by the way, you can get 2 free stocks with Webull when you deposit $100. The projected global growth rate for battery production is only 14.1%. The projected annual growth rate for battery production in China is 33%. So China is expected to grow at the most appropriate rate to actually provide the batteries that we need to support our EV transition. But the world as an average is woefully behind. Part of that has to do with America, but not just because America is America and we're behind on developing batteries, but because of the liberties that we have in America that actually make it a lot harder for us to create the facilities and mines that we need to create more battery supply strength. See, usually when I talk about battery supply shortages, I generally hear people respond with, hey, well, we can mine in Arizona or Nevada, or there are mines in Canada we can use. Or you know what, we can recycle batteries. But here's the problem. We've got to be real about battery manufacturing. It's a very, very complicated process. Battery manufacturing is the opposite of manufacturing a commodity right now. Even though batteries should be a commodity, every manufacturer has different quality, different prices, different fire risk, different transportation risk, different install instructions, different chemicals, different shapes of batteries. Everybody's doing something different, and it's a disaster. Take a look at the electric vehicle battery supply chain analysis. Folks are like, oh, well, we could just mine more, right? It's not that easy. That's just one piece of the puzzle. And we also have human rights violation concerns regarding the mining of cobalt and child labor, which is also an issue. Nickel has also fallen, and actually even lithium mines have fallen under that same kind of scrutiny. But specifically, cobalt is usually referred to as this, as having these human rights violation concerns. But then, beyond actually just mining the materials, you've got to actually put together or supply the components, the cathodes, the anodes, the separators. And if you search for separator shortages right now, you get blown away with battery separator shortages. It's not just a supply chain issue that we're having with chips right now. It's not just an issue with batteries, but it's all of the parts within batteries as well. We're not mining enough. We have issues within the actual products that go within batteries. Then we have to manufacture the batteries. Then we have to manufacture the battery packs, which Tesla is trying to nix from their production by doing structural batteries, but that's going to create its own challenges. Then you've got to actually assemble the products, which Tesla would obviously still do, but so do other electric vehicle companies. Then you've got to put together the vehicle. Then you get a vehicle. But so the point of this whole chart here is to say that for folks who are like, hey, well, we could recycle batteries. Well, wait a minute. That comes after this whole process. The reality is, if we were to recycle all of the electric vehicle batteries that existed right now, we probably wouldn't even have enough batteries to create the vehicles that we're trying to create this year. Because there just aren't that many batteries to recycle right now. This is a growing issue that we're having, and it's getting worse and worse by the day. And so obviously you could see that the supply chain process is a very complicated one. And this is not an issue that can be solved by just saying, well, we're going to go mine our own lithium, like Tesla suggests. It's also not going to be solved by somebody like Quantumscape going, hey, we're working on a solid state battery. Great. The first challenge with Quantumscape is they don't even know yet what material they want to use to work with their lithium metal anode. They're considering sulfides, they're considering ceramics. They've had success in tests with ceramics, but you're talking lab tests, not actually production tests of real batteries. You're talking about a controlled environment, a lab. We don't know the stability of this solid state technology yet. And even if tomorrow Quantumscape is like, boom, we got to produce battery pack. Great. How much more does it cost? Does it cost 3x the cost of a normal lithium iron battery that I could get cheaply from China? Right now, we import 48% of the batteries, well, of the batteries that we import in the United States, 48% of our imports come directly from China, okay? We get to use those cheap batteries here in America to help fulfill our battery demand. But this creates issues because it's not just a matter of coming up with new technology or new mines. It's the fact that, oh my gosh, we need batteries at cost parity to what we can get from China. And we've had so many issues getting enough batteries that we had Audi halt productions. They in February halted production of their SUV e-tron. Jaguar halted production of their I-Pace due to lack of battery materials in their work with LG Chem, which is a Polish facility that they use, and it's a South Korean company. And then we also had NIO in China halt their production facility for 5 days due to chip shortages, despite the fact that China has been rumored to be hoarding certain chips in China, which you would think would be beneficial to Chinese companies, yet NIO still shuts down. So it's kind of like, wait a minute, when we start putting all of the pieces of the puzzle together, we realize we don't even have a clear picture as to what this puzzle is going to look like. We've got a disaster. We have such a disaster that the Biden administration issued Executive Order 14017 to do a 100-day review and then maybe address the vulnerabilities of our battery manufacturing facilities in the United States or capabilities in the United States. But let's be real. How hard is it to actually get things done in the United States when it comes to creating new facilities? Consider this. The New York Times did an expose on exactly this. The New York Times multiple times has found and reported on the fact that when we try to create new battery manufacturing facilities in the United States or new mining facilities in the United States, we end up getting lawsuits upon lawsuits to try to block companies from actually developing new mines or new factories in certain areas because people don't want mines in certain areas, they don't want factories in certain areas, or their competitors suing them, and all of a sudden United States companies get bogged down in multi-year lawsuits, whereas at the same time China is able to use their communist might and go, we're building new battery facilities. So we've got a big problem. We've got a massive problem because we do not have enough batteries. And the question is, what do we do? How do we properly invest to hedge the fact that we do not have enough batteries and the rate of growth of battery production worldwide, especially in the United States, is way too slow? Well, I mean, it's beneficial to know that companies like Tesla have the might to be in talks with multiple different battery suppliers. They can diversify. They can use CATL just like NIO can use CATL, but they can also work with Panasonic in their Nevada Gigafactory to supply and make their own batteries here in Nevada. We know that Giga Texas and Giga Berlin will also be manufacturing hubs, and we believe that Tesla is also considering sourcing supplies from Russia to help them with their manufacturing in Berlin. So Tesla is trying to do whatever they can to avoid supply chain interruptions to their battery manufacturing. But the bottom line is, when it comes to battery manufacturing, we know battery manufacturing takes a crap ton of money and it takes a crap ton of skill, which fortunately Tesla has. But I cannot say the same thing about a company like CCIV or Workhorse or Lordstown Motors or Fisker or Arcimoto or some of the smaller companies that are trying to get their hands on batteries but maybe can't get the best quality batteries or even the proper quantity of batteries that they need because potentially they get replaced or sort of blocked out by massive companies, whether that's Ford, GM, Mercedes, BMW, or Tesla, who can offer massive multi-year guaranteed contracts to battery manufacturers. And so the first concern I have is that larger and even traditional automakers and the larger ones like Tesla that are in EVs, they're going to have a big advantage over smaller companies when it comes to actually sourcing the batteries that they need to prevent their supply chains from being disrupted. Even NIO though, because you think, well, hey, NIO's a big one in China and they're Chinese, so maybe they'll get more benefits from China. Maybe China will soon just kick Tesla out. After all, they've kind of been laying the groundwork with their massive FUD over Tesla cameras spying on military installations in China, which I think we all agree is total FUD, but Tesla's already working on by setting up Chinese localized servers. We know there was a ton of Tesla brake FUD when we had a protester stomping on top of a Tesla complaining that Teslas were low quality but wouldn't let their vehicle be inspected by Tesla. So we don't even know if what they're saying is total bullcrap or who they were paid by or what happened with the vehicle because we don't have access to the vehicle other than electronic logs that show that the Tesla was able to actually brake multiple times prior to an incident with the vehicle. But apparently the customer's like, yeah, well, I still don't want you inspecting my car. So, sorry, went on a little bit of a Tesla rampage rant there. But the point is, yeah, sure, who knows? Maybe China is realizing the same thing. Maybe China realizes, crap, even though we can grow our battery manufacturing capacity quickly, we might not have enough for Tesla and our homegrown EV manufacturers, whether that's through BYD or through the JAC manufacturing plants, NIO by extension, or directly, or Xpeng. Maybe at some point when Tesla gets their situation sorted out in China, they won't need Tesla anymore. So Tesla's certainly got a diversification risk that they've got to consider as well, which I'm sure they do. And this is why we have gigafactories coming to Texas and Berlin, and we're not just seeing more pop up in China. And so before I get to my conclusion, I want to say, look, I believe that the larger auto manufacturers like Tesla and the old guard of auto manufacturers are going to have an advantage securing the appropriate supply chains that they need to get the amount of batteries they need. I believe that creates a significant risk for smaller companies. I also believe that the entire electric vehicle industry is going to get bogged down by a lack of batteries, and that potentially the ones most able to get through any kind of supply chain shortages are those taking control of making sure they get enough contracts for batteries now, but also vertically integrating their supply chains, which is really the only one really doing that is Tesla right now. We know that because most of the other companies, whether that's Mercedes or BMW and their partnerships with other battery facilities, or NIO with their partnership with CATL and potentially a couple other battery facilities that they're working on getting contracts with or have already gotten contracts with, we know that the bigger, more mighty the company, the more likely they are to be able to solve this problem and prevent massive issues from a battery shortage. So, in conclusion, how do we invest? What do we do? We have a battery crisis. We have a battery shortage. It's going to take a long time to solve. We can't just turn around and start mining lithium and go, yeah, we got more stuff for batteries. There's a whole lot more to this. So how do we handle this? How do we invest going forward? So, my take. Number one, I'm done with options contracts on electric vehicles. Now, I still have a lot of call options on electric vehicles. NIO, Tesla, CCIV. But I think it's a mistake to continue to focus on option contracts. That's because I strongly believe in the electric vehicle revolution, but I'm very uncertain about the short-term timeframes and what kind of bottlenecks are going to potentially delay growth in electric vehicle companies, which can be heavily pre-priced into option contracts, but then not get realized because of supply chain constraints that pop up. And so I believe that maybe over the next year, we're still okay with the amount of battery supply we have compared to EV production. But as EV production ramps and we get more and more Tesla gigafactories, we get more factories from Lucid, we get more factories from NIO. We know that JAC, in partnership with Volkswagen, is planning on releasing or opening a new factory later this year. The more factories we get, the more demand there's going to be on batteries. And so I think there's going to be a 2022 to 2023 risk of supply chain shortages for batteries. We're going to literally go from COVID supply chain disruptions, port disruptions, and chip disruptions straight into battery supply chain issues. And those are going to take 2 to 4 years to really resolve themselves to where we actually have enough battery supply production to make sure that we're not hampering EV growth. And so this makes me very nervous about even long option contracts. Now, I still have my long option contracts. I still plan to hold them until probably through the end of this year. Sometime between September and December is when I'll rotate out of my option contracts, as long as everything goes according to my script. I mean my plan. I mean my hope. I mean my desire of what happens in the stock market. But we'll see. But the point is, I am a little bit concerned that these battery supply chain issues are going to hold back options growth, something that might not be priced into options today, and that there's a big risk in investing too heavily in EV-related options. And so as soon as I can, I would like to rotate my options to shares. The next thing that I want to consider is I've got to make sure that I'm not overly exposed to this battery supply chain risk, because if in 2 years we have this massive battery supply blockade and it's holding up companies from Enphase from being able to produce their highly profitable battery packs, then guess what happens? Then I lose money on my EV stocks and my energy stocks, which a lot of solar companies rely heavily on battery technology. So we've got a whole host of issues related to battery issues, or a whole host of consequences related to battery issues. And this is something that I very much want to pay attention to. And it's very likely going to mean that when I rotate out of my options, I probably need to start diversifying more into companies that are not solely exposed to battery supply chain issues. And right now, being heavy on EVs and being heavy on energies like Enphase that heavily rely on battery and chip supply is probably not the best portfolio balance to have, especially if I'm heavy on calls. Again, I expect we are going to have a large EV and tech recovery over the next 6 months. As that recovery comes, I am going to rotate my portfolio to shares, but potentially also other companies outside completely the battery-reliant sector. So maybe that means I start looking at companies that are discounted SaaS companies compared to prior valuations. Who knows? But these are things that I'm going to be evaluating over the next few weeks to few months. So make sure to subscribe to the channel if you want more of my thoughts on how I'm going to evolve my investing strategy. But this is a big concern of mine. It's something I'm paying attention to, and I think it's something you should pay attention to as well. I look forward to your comments. Link down below, or in the comment section down below. Check out my programs on stocks and psychology and money. Added a bunch of lectures, or my other programs as well. Also link down below. Use that 40% off coupon code. And folks, we'll see you in the next video. Thanks. Bye.